Hi everyone, this is Jason with Lance's Tops and Auto Upholstery. I just wanted to make a video real quick highlighting how to install a center console lid cover. This is just a center console lid that was dropped off by a customer. You can see it's all worn out. There is a pre-sewn cover that he ordered online and installs very easily. You just got to take out all of the staples on the back side and then install this and then re-staple it. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got my center console lid and I've got the pre-sewn cover. I'm going to set the pre-sewn cover over to the side for now. I'm going to take this and I'm going to start pulling those staples out. So what I use is what's called a staple puller, and I'll show you that right here. So this is called a staple puller. We got this one from CS Osborne and Company. You can see here that there are little prongs on the front of it, little teeth, and they will get you if you're not careful. So what you do is you take one of them, say there's a staple here, so you take the one side, you get it up underneath there, you set it down, and then you pry, and it pulls it off. Then once you have it sticking up, if it doesn't come all the way out, you're going to take the staple and you're going to lay it flush and you're going to clamp and pull it out. You don't want to clip because then you're going to leave a raw edge. With that being said, here we go on here. So you want to stick that in there like I said and just pull it out. Some of them come out really easily, some of them don't, like this one right here. Kind of had to give it a little bit more of a twist. So let's take this apart. Alright, so we're coming to the end here, pulling out all these staples. Like I said, most of them kind of pop up and out on their own when you use the staple puller, but sometimes they stay in there and you want to use these side cuts to get the rest out. Don't ever want to leave staples on a table. That's catastrophic for any type of cover. Just kind of set these to the side. Looks like there's a couple more that I missed. And right here, you can see that it's all released. And now what I can do is take this and pull it around the sides and pull it down and off. Some little tabs. Alright, so the cover is now off. That can go right into your trash can. Being that I already have a pre-sewn cover. Now, of course, if you didn't have a pre-sewn cover, you'd want to just mark your two sides. You put A and B and two lines, and then put another line here and here, and then another line here and here. What I would typically do is start on one side, so you're sewing. I'd start here, sew all the way around, and then I'd flip this over, and I'd flip this side and start from the exact same side you just sewed from, because then you know it's going to end up the same way. And then I'd go through and do my top stitch on both sides. Then you have yourself a cover. But since it's already a pre-sewn cover, I just want to make sure that all of these have been taken care of. Yep, there are no more staples that are going to, poke me in the fingers or anything like that. Make sure it's all good. You're going to take this, just lay it right on there. You want to put it the right way, of course. Kind of line it up. There typically are these little channels that you can follow, which on this one there's some channels on the side. So you want to make sure that that seam lines right up with that right there. So you can see that channel, that lays right on top of that channel. So we're going to go ahead and get that set in its spot, and then I'm going to staple right there. I'm going to pull this around to its side, and I'm going to staple right there. and then we'll staple around the other side. So like I said, you're going to want to line those up right there. And I want to make sure you have enough in the front. Okay. And then you're going to want to line this side up. Okay. So what we'll do is set one in the middle. Actually, let me make sure I have the correct size staples. So you want to make sure you have the correct size staples because you don't want to blow a staple through this. This looks like some pretty thick plastic, so I can use these 3/8 inch staples, or 3/8 crown by 3 inch deep. This is why I always keep the ends, you know, sometimes you don't use a full rail of staples. Then you can just piece these few together. So I'm just taking a few of the extras that I have in a little bin, putting them in there. But that's why you always do a little test staple right there, so that way you can see how far it's going to go in. So let's get this back into its spot that we wanted it at. Okay, perfect. So, go ahead and pull that back around. Now that we know it's not too deep, I'm going to go ahead and staple where it needs to be stapled. Perfect. You're going to want to come to the back side and kind of give it a nice tug and look on the back side. So, you're going to want to give this a decent tug here. And if you notice, there's a little bit of a wrinkle up here at the top, but don't worry about that yet. And I'm going to pull this down into the center, staple, staple. Now that there's these wrinkles here, you can kind of rectify these by pulling off to the side on this side, and then pulling on this side for this side. See how they kind of already came out? So what I'm going to do is get this in its spot. See that? I want to make sure that that's falling in that channel right there. So I'm going to pull this where I feel it's tight enough and equal on either side. I'm going to pull that down and around. Now being that that's a little thick and I'm using 1/4 inch staples, I'm going to put a few in there. Make sure it sticks. So I'm going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing. You want to make sure that you're equal on both sides. Alright, looks pretty equal. I'm going to wrap it around and then stick your staples. Alright, perfect. So now we got it from side to side on the back. Good. Now I can see this little wrinkle here. It's probably from a box wrinkle or something like that. I'm going to give it a decent tug here on this side without warping that seam. I'm going to pull this down and around, and it looks like there's a little tab here. So it wants me to follow that tab. I'm going to go ahead and put a staple right there. Right there, and right there. So now I have that seam kind of pulled. Now I want to do the same for the other side. You want to do it equally all the way across. And like I said, there's a tab in here and there's a pre-cut hole. So I'm lining that hole up because that has to be where it goes. I'm going to take my staple gun and I'm going to staple one on one side and one on the other. And I'm going to keep looking. So I still got that wrinkle there. If that wrinkle is still there, and I'm talking about this one right here, you can hardly see in the video, but if that's still there when I'm done, what I will do is grab the steamer and I'll steam this really well. It normally will take that out. So I'm going to go up here. Give it a decent tug. When I say give it a decent tug, I don't mean like pull on it like you're trying to muscle it around. You just want to pull it to where it's tight around the edges. And give it a nice staple. Okay, same thing to the other side. Pull it down and around. Staple, staple. Being that that's in its spot, I'm I'm going to finish lining up these few edges here. You want to make sure that your seam is falling, so you want to look down your seam to make sure that it's right. So that is looking really good. What I'm going to do is finish this here. Okay, so the back side has been stapled. I have these corners still that have to be addressed, but I want to make sure that the front up here is still good. And yeah, that wrinkle's still in there. It probably came from when it was shipped or whatever it is. But I'm going to hit that with a steamer at the end, you'll see. So I'm going to go up here to the front, and being that I have these corners here, so you're going to want to start right here on this edge, that round portion. So you don't have any wrinkles. You're going to want to kind of give it a decent tug. Give it a decent tug and put a staple in there. And then come to your very sharp corner and pull that one down and in there and give it a set staple. And then you have this finger here. That finger, you can either get the heat gun, or if it's stretchy enough, you can pull it right into where the other ones are. And want to hold that there, staple. Going to want to pull that one in. And actually, that staple that I put in here in the corner is too far over, so I'm going to pull that out. And I'll pull it over just a little bit more. And then as I come around this corner, I'm going to pull in. So I'm coming in this way as I come around the corner. And it looks like this seam came off, even though I put about 5 staples in there. So what I'm going to do is put a couple more staples and pull those out real quick, and just put 1 3/8 size staple in here. Kind of got stuck there. Put that staple in there, and then being that this is really thick here and there's some staples already on here, I know it's not going to go through, and I'm just going to put 1 staple over top of those other staples. That way I know that those won't come out anymore, and then I'll do the same thing for the other side. So as you can see, I put a staple across the 1/8 inch staples, so that way it holds it in. So I'm going to get rid of those 1/8 inch staples again so I don't forget. I'm sorry, I'm going to get rid of the 3/8 staples so I don't forget that. And we're going to get back to over here. So I've got some material that I'm trying to pull down and around. So you want to tug on that pretty tight. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to staple here. And I'm going to take this other finger and I'm going to pull it again. I'm going to staple there right next to it, and then again right next to it. So it looks like that one came out. You want to just make sure that all these staples are getting stapled in there. Now I have my corner. You can see that my corner is on there. There's a couple of staples here. It's kind of bunched up. You're going to want to cut that excess material off. And then, being that I have this one here, you're going to want to pull here and pull towards these staples. And do the same thing. You're just going to want to pinch and pull over to the side. Pinch, pull over to the side, pinch, pull over to the side. Same thing with the other side. So Lance came over and he kind of reminded me about something that I was just doing here, as I wasn't kind of thinking about it. So when you're doing these, if I have this kind of pulled off the side here and I try to staple, the plastic's gonna bounce and this isn't gonna staple all the way in. So what you want to do is just make sure that when you're stapling, that you're all the way horizontal with the table. You hear that? So that one went really good in there. That way you always make sure you're not wasting any staples or any time. So like I said, with this side here, it is kind of on a corner, so you're going to want to kind of turn it. And then you're going to pinch and pull again. So pinch and pull. Pinch and pull. Pinch and pull. Pinch and pull. So like I said, I've got all this excess material. You're gonna want to chop that off with a razor blade. I'm gonna come up over here, finish this little spot. Alright, so there's that. You're going to want to now come to the other side. I've got these corners to finish. Go ahead and pull in the one seam and staple it down. And then come to the corner, pull it in, staple, and then take the other two fingers and give them a tight pull, staple, staple. Same thing with the other one. And then now that is set, and I can just go ahead and staple across this half of the back side. Now I'm back over here again. Gonna give that seam a tug. Put a little set staple in it. I'm gonna come to the finger. I'm gonna pull it. Pull it, pull it, pull it. And then pull those fingers. Now here's a quick little learner tip. So as I'm pulling this finger, you're gonna wanna pull it and see how it kind of sets down there. So if I take my staple gun and I set that there and I walk it up, now we get a nice flat spot. Same with this one here. You're gonna wanna start at the front of that finger, walk your gun up, and your staple gun will put it right in there nice and flat, no bunched up material. Come across here, the back side, finish the rest of your staples. What I like to do is come back around with some 3/8 deep staples and then just go over my seams one more time to make sure. You're going to want to check around your edges, make sure that none of the seams are out of place, and then you're going to want to trim that off. You're going to take a brand new razor blade. Be careful, of course. You're going to start on one end and cut as close as you can to those staples without getting too close to where it won't hold anymore. But you're going to want to cut all of these little fingers off. So if you're seeing what I'm doing here, you want to come in and kind of follow along. Now these fingers, I'm going to just kind of chop them down and come across here. Now this is where that seam's at, so you're going to want to be careful. Now being that I cut across there, I noticed that I don't have a staple on the blind stitch of that seam. You're going to want to make sure that you get those in there because you don't want that seam to come apart. Then your customer's going to come back and they're not going to be very happy with you. There we go. So I now have a brand new seat cover installed on the center console lid. You can see how I stapled across here. And then that wrinkle did end up coming out. I can barely see it in there. And that, like I said, that came from like a, probably when it was shipping, it was probably folded or something. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. It's just a pre-cut, pre-sewn, you know, center console lid cover. And it's very easy to install if you know what you're doing. For those of you who are coming up and kind of learning, this is a very, very good learning experience. And if you're trying to start a business, this is another good way to make money because you can charge your hour labor. I mean, that might have taken me half an hour, depending, to an hour. You charge yourself an hour labor, and then you have your, you have your shop making some actual money. But outside of that, I'm going to clean this up a little bit because my fingers were a little bit dirty as I was working on this. I'm going to see if I can steam that little wrinkle out of there, even though you can't even see it on video. Right there, it looks like a little tiny wrinkle from the shipping. But besides that, there's your how-to. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Lancer Tops and Auto Upholstery. I also have my own personal channel, Jason Karras. If you would, please go follow me there. Thanks. Have a great day.